Peter, tell us a little bit about how the Oasis Church started.
Well, I suppose the journey really began in Ireland, where we lived for 30-odd years. Shirley, my wife, is Irish. But we just had a real sense that we were to come to France to make a place of fellowship, make a church, plant a church, and that really all happened back in the year 2000. But almost 10 years on now, perhaps our dream is really beginning to come together, growing and meeting each week.
So what type of people come here?
Oh, all sorts. I suppose any church really represents the community that it lives in. And down here in Provence, which is a slightly unusual community, it's no different really. We have many expats living down here, people who've retired, we have people who are on holiday. We also have a few apartments that we let out for people to come and stay in. So a real mixture of people who come to meet us.
And what normally happens when people come? And on a Sunday when people come and meet here, what happens?
Well, very normal. I'm an Anglican minister. We have a service that is built around breaking bread together, communion service. But everybody takes part in that and joins in. Once a month we meet up here in the garden, either here where it all started in the little chalet behind me. We have to meet outside now because it's grown so much, or perhaps down in the garden below. And then later in the month we meet up in a chapel up in the village of Lorgues.
What would you say that draws people into the Oasis community group?
Well, again, all sorts of reasons. We do have a lot of elderly people living down here, and bereavement is just a natural part of life, and very much a part of life down here as well. So we may have widows, people that have come to know us through difficult situations. We also have young families like your own with your two children. And in a strange way, our church perhaps is a bit untypical of the community down here. It crosses all age groups, but I think largely people find us through either contact with our own pastoral work, or again, like yourselves, they've found us on the internet and have just looked around to find Christian fellowship, either on holiday or because they're living here, and we've come up on the web.
Because one thing that I've noticed about the church here is that there's always different faces here. Always different faces every time we come, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
that? Yes, it is a bit unusual. The number of people, not that we count, but it always seems to be fairly constant, maybe gently growing, but as you quite rightly say, never the same group of people. But that reflects life down here in Provence. There are people who have second homes and people who are visiting, people on holiday. There's a lot of toing and froing and coming and going, and I think we find that our church probably is home to quite a large group of people, but most unlikely that you would all get them together on one occasion.
And what about the fact that you have a couple of non-Christians that attend?
Well, it's exciting really, isn't it? Our door is open to everybody. We're not really stuck into denominations. We just feel when people come together, they come together because there's a need for fellowship, and there's a need for worship, and there's a need for community. What God does with that really is not for us to question. Our role really is just to be available and allow that opportunity, which is perhaps what our home and our ministry is about here.
Okay, and what about if you could just outline what's going on at the moment, what's on the horizon for Oasis Church? What things is the church involved with?
Well, I think we're perhaps at quite an exciting stage. We sit here in the middle of the Var. Lorgues really is very much in the centre of the Var. We're part of the Diocese of Europe, and which is part of the Church of England, and we come largely under that umbrella. But as things grow, there's a need to see exactly what the way forward is, and like in the area that you live in, where you are almost an hour away from us, and there's a group of you come, and we're exploring, the possibilities of home groups and seeing how can the church grow, and through this autumn we're going to look at the Book of Acts and go back to the rule book and say, well, it worked then, and we need to understand why it worked then, and explore that and see how that is relevant to our situation today. We live in a very dispersed community, and I think as a church we need to reach out to people and say, I think what Jesus said, we'll come to you on your terms, and rather than perhaps expect you always to come to us on our terms.
And do you have a dream or an idea of where you see the Oasis Church that you started being in 10 years' time or 5 years' time?
I think perhaps the easy answer to that is yes and no. It can be arrogant. It can be arrogant to say yes. I think if we found everything on prayer, and we just go very gently and remember the verse of Scripture that says, the Lord builds the church. Well, all we must do is remain faithful to that. We are in a very strange mission field here. That's the way that I look at it, and it's a very barren mission field that we're called into the heart of. So in many ways the potential for the gospel to be shared and for Jesus to be made known is almost limitless. And
finally, if somebody's watching this film, wants to get in touch or come along, how do they do that?
Well, if they're watching this maybe on YouTube and they've stumbled across it by accident, just go into Google and type in L'Oasis, Lorgues. I'm sure we'll come up fairly quickly. Or maybe you've got this link off our website. Well, if you've found our website, there's a lot of information on there about who we are, what we are, why we are, when we meet, where we meet, and just keep in touch with that. We also do a newsletter every other month, and you can also link that off the website, and it'll take you into another place where it can actually be read online. So plenty of opportunity to look at us and see who and what we are, and of course you're always very welcome to come and join us here.
Thank you, Peter.